Welcome to Old Trails Archive, where we dig up the stories that history almost let disappear. And today we're counting down 15 songs that didn't just top the charts in the 1960s, they became the era.
I hear the train a-coming.
These are the recordings that broke rules, broke hearts, and broke records. And every single one of them has a story behind it that most people have never heard in full. Let's go. Number 14, El Paso, Marty Robbins. 1960.
Out in the West Texas town.
Marty Robbins wrote El Paso in the backseat of a car in roughly the time it takes to sing it. A full Western story about a cowboy, a cantina dancer named Felina, a gunfight, and a man who rides back to his own death because love is the only logic he has left.
Town of El Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican.
When he brought it to Columbia Records, the label told him plainly that no radio station would play a 4.5-minute country single. They pressed the full version onto the B-side and pushed a shortened cut as the A-side. Every disc jockey in the country flipped the record and played the long version anyway.
Play and Felina would whirl.
El Paso hit #1 on both the Billboard Country Chart and the Hot 100 Pop Chart simultaneously in early 1960, making it the longest song ever to top the all-genre chart at that time. The label that called it a career-ending mistake watched it become the defining record of Robbins' life.
Out through the back door of roses I read.
In 1961, it won the very first Grammy ever awarded for Best Country and Western Recording. Rose's Cantina from the lyric is a real bar in El Paso, Texas, still operating today on the strength of that song's fame. Marty Robbins closed every concert of his career with it and died in 1982, still writing a fourth chapter to the story.
Cradled by two loving arms that I'll die for.
Number 13, I Fall to Pieces, Patsy Cline, 1961.
I fall.
Before Patsy Cline agreed to record this song, Brenda Lee had already turned it down. Before that, producer Owen Bradley had offered it to Roy Drusky, who said it was too feminine for a man to sing. The song sat there, passed around, rejected, until Cline overheard the conversation from a hallway at Decca Records and asked if she could have it. That accident in a hallway changed country music. Cline had severe reservations about the production. She thought it was too pop, not enough country. Bradley pushed her in a new direction, layering the Jordanaires, Elvis Presley's famous backing quartet, behind her voice for the first time. On the fourth take of the recording session, every grown man in that studio was in tears. Bradley looked up and said, "That's the one." Released in January 1961, the song took 6 months to climb to #1, almost unheard of in that era. By August, Cline was lying in a hospital bed recovering from a near-fatal car accident when it finally hit the top of the chart. To thank the songwriters, she had 2 pieces of jewelry engraved that simply read, "Thanks for the hit, Patsy." Number 12, Ring of Fire, Johnny Cash. 1963, June. Carter wrote this song about the terror of falling in love with Johnny Cash. She was a married woman. He was a married man. They were on tour together, and she later said she would drive alone at night trying to extinguish a feeling she described as burning, inescapable, and completely beyond her control.
Burn, 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 the ring of...
She co-wrote it with Merle Kilgore, gave it first to her sister Anita Carter, whose folk version did not chart. Then Cash had a dream where he heard the song with Mexican-style mariachi horns and recorded it exactly that way on March 25th, 1963.
A fiery ring.
Ring of Fire spent 7 weeks at #1 on the country chart, the longest run at the top of any Johnny Cash single in his entire career. It crossed to number 17 on the pop chart and was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1999. Cash's first wife, Vivian, later claimed in her memoir that Cash had written the song himself on a drug-fueled fishing trip and gave June the writing credit because, as she quoted him, "She needs the money."
I fell into a burning ring of fire.
The authorship dispute was never officially settled. What is not disputed is what the song was about. It was written about a forbidden love by the woman caught in the middle of it, and every person who heard it understood exactly what they were listening to.
Ring of fire, the ring of fire.
Number 11, King of the Road, Roger Miller, 1965.
Trailer for sale or rent.
Roger Miller was riding in a car outside Chicago when he spotted a sign nailed to a barn that read, "Trailers for sale or rent." He filed it away.
Rooms to let 50 cents.
Months later, walking through an inn airport in Boise, Idaho, he watched a hobo moving through the terminal with absolute unhurried confidence. A man with nothing, going nowhere, completely at peace. Those two moments clicked together, and Miller spent 6 weeks building a song around them.
Ain't got no cigarettes.
He recorded King of the Road in November 1964, with guitarist Thumbs Carlisle snapping his fingers throughout, giving it that rolling, easygoing pulse that made it feel like a long stroll down an open road. It hit number 1 on the country chart for 5 weeks, crossed to number 4 on the Hot 100, and reached number 1 in both the United Kingdom and Norway. At the 1966 Grammy Awards, the song swept the ceremony, winning 5 Grammys on its own, a haul that set a record for the most awards won at a single ceremony by one artist, a record Roger Miller held for 18 years until Michael Jackson's Thriller broke it. King of the Road has sold an estimated 10 million copies worldwide. Miller died in 1992. The song is still playing somewhere on Earth right now.
No phone, no pool, no pet.
Number 10, Make the World Go Away, Eddie Arnold, 1965.
Make the world go away.
Eddie Arnold had been a country star since the 1940s, but by 1965, Nashville had quietly written him off. He was pushing 50 in a genre chasing youth. When he recorded Hank Cochran's Make the World Go Away, very few people were paying close attention. What he produced became the best-selling country recording of his career and one of the most perfectly constructed performances of the entire decade.
Get off my shoulder.
Producer Chet Atkins surrounded Arnold's voice in cascading strings and lush orchestration, a production so smooth it slipped past country radio's defenses and directly into the living rooms of people who had never thought of themselves as country music listeners.
Say the things you
It
use.
hit number 1 on the country chart, crossed to number 6 on the pop chart, and spent an extraordinary 33 weeks on the Billboard country chart. Make the World Go Away did not just save Eddie Arnold's career, it transformed it. A man the industry had started to overlook walked into a recording session and quietly produced the defining sound of his era. He became the best-selling country artist of the entire 1960s and was elected to the Country Music Hall of Fame the very next year.
Say the things you used to say.
Number 9, Ode to Billie Joe, Bobby Gentry, 1967. In July 1967, Capitol Records released a song they thought was too dark, too long, and too different for radio. They nearly buried it on the B-side. When disc jockeys flipped the record anyway, it climbed past the Doors, past Aretha Franklin, past the Beatles, and knocked All You Need Is Love off the number 1 spot on the Hot 100. It stayed there for 4 weeks.
My brother was baling hay.
Bobby Gentry was 25 years old when she recorded this half-spoken Southern Gothic narrative about a Mississippi family eating dinner the day they hear that a boy named Billie Joe McAllister jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge. Hidden inside the lyric is one line. A preacher mentions he saw the narrator and Billie Joe throwing something off that bridge the day before he died. Gentry refused to explain what it was for the rest of her career, saying the real point of the song was the chilling indifference of people who pass biscuits while someone else's world ends.
And I got some news this morning from Choctaw Ridge.
The song won 3 Grammy Awards in 1968 and sold more than 3 million copies. Capitol pre-ordered 500,000 copies of the album, more than they had pre-ordered for anything since the Beatles' debut. In the early 1980s, Bobbie Gentry walked away from the music industry entirely. She has not given a public interview in over 40 years. The song is still playing. She is still not talking.
Billie Joe McAllister jumped off the Tallahatchie.
Number 8, Divorce, Tammy Wynette, 1968.
Our little boy is 4 years old.
Tammy Wynette had been married and divorced before she was 25, and she carried that experience like a wound that never quite closed. Written by Bobby Braddock and Curly Putman, the song tells the story of a mother spelling out words, divorce, custody, you, so that her 4-year-old son cannot understand what is being discussed over his head. It is a masterpiece of emotional concealment, and Wynette performs that tension with a precision that most singers never come close to.
I love you both, and that's what baby
Divorce hit number 1 on the country chart in 1968 and crossed to number 63 on the pop chart. In a year already filled with fierce female voices in country, Loretta Lynn's Fist City, Jeannie C. Riley's Harper Valley PTA, Wynette's quiet devastation cut through all the defiance and landed somewhere more private. Tammy Wynette was married 5 times in her life. The spelling conceit was not just clever, it was a reflection of a woman who had actually lived in a house where certain words were too dangerous to say out loud in front of a child. By the time most listeners heard this record, they already knew exactly which letters she meant. If you've made it this far, you already know this list is hitting different. Drop a like, share this with somebody who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Old Trail Archive if you haven't already. The second half gets even heavier. Number 7, Harper Valley PTA, Jeannie C. Riley, 1968. In 1967, Tom T. Hall was asked to write a song with teeth, something narrative in the spirit of Bobbie Gentry's Ode to Billie Joe. Hall reached back into his childhood in Olive Hill, Kentucky, and pulled out a woman he had watched being judged his entire young life. A single mother who dressed how she wanted and refused to apologize. He drew further inspiration from Sinclair Lewis's novel, Elmer Gantry, the great American portrait of public morality masking private corruption. He wrote it in one sitting.
Well, her daughter came home.
Jeannie C. Riley was 22 and working as a secretary in Nashville when she recorded it. Released in August 1968, it topped the Billboard Hot 100. 1 week later, it topped the Billboard Country chart, making Riley the first female artist in history to hold number 1 on both charts simultaneously, a record that would not fall until Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 in 1981.
Well, the note said, Mrs. Johnson, you're wearing your dresses way too.
The song sold more than 6 million copies worldwide, won the 1968 Grammy for Best Country Vocal Performance, and took the CMA Award for Single of the Year. Tom T. Hall, the man who had wanted to be a novelist, later said of this song, "That was my novel. He wrote it in one sitting. It changed both their lives before either of them fully understood what had happened."
Ought to be bringing up your little girl this way.
Number 6, Green Green Grass of Home, Porter Wagoner, Chi,
The old
1965.
Looks the same as
Porter Wagoner recorded Green Green Grass of Home in 1965, taking it to number 4 on the Billboard Country chart. But the song's real story happened overseas. When Welsh singer Tom Jones heard Wagoner's version, he recorded his own and released it in the UK in 1966. It went to number 1 in Britain, spent 7 weeks at the top, and became the biggest selling UK single of 1966, eventually selling over 1.5 million copies in Britain alone.
green grass of home.
The song tells the story of a man returning home, his old house, the old oak tree, a girl named Mary, and then delivers a final gut-punch twist. He wakes up and realizes he is dreaming. He is in a prison cell. He is on death row. The warmth of everything in the first three verses is a dream from which the listener, like the narrator, is violently returned to reality.
For there's a guard.
What gave the song additional gravity in the UK was timing. Britain had abolished the death penalty in 1965, just as Jones's version was climbing the charts. The song became a focal point of a still raw cultural conversation about capital punishment. Curly Putman's lyric has since been recorded by more than 200 artists. Porter Wagoner's version was America's Heartland. The world heard it through a Welsh voice at exactly the moment the world needed to hear that story.
Is still standing, though the pain.
Number 5, Act Naturally, Buck Owens, 1963.
They're gonna put me in the movie.
Buck Owens recorded Act Naturally in 1963 and took it to number 1 on the Billboard Country chart. Written by Johnny Russell and Vonnie Morrison, it was a perfectly constructed song about a man so brokenhearted he figures he can win an Academy Award just by being himself. Because real heartbreak is the most convincing performance there is. Owens and his band, the Buckaroos, played it with the raw, guitar-driven energy of the Bakersfield sound, the working-class California alternative to polished Nashville production.
'Cause I can play the part.
2 years later, in 1965, the Beatles released Help, and on the album, Ringo Starr sang lead vocals on a cover of Act Naturally. The Beatles version hit the top 5 in both the United States and the United Kingdom, introducing Buck Owens to an audience that had never heard of him and forcing the entire music industry to acknowledge that what they called regional and working class had just been validated on the largest stage on earth.
Spend it me. I'll play the part.
In 1989, Owens and Ringo Starr reunited to record a new version together, earning both a CMA nomination for Vocal Event of the Year and a Grammy nomination for Best Country Collaboration. Buck Owens became one of the most important figures in country music history, and the Bakersfield sound he built became the direct foundation of the outlaw country movement that followed. Without Act Naturally, and without Ringo Starr flipping that record over, a very different history of American music might have been written.
Then I know that you will plainly see.
Number 4, Okie from Muskogee, Merle Haggard, 1969.
We don't smoke marijuana.
Merle Haggard had actually served time at San Quentin State Prison before he ever became a country star. Convicted of burglary at 21, he sat in the prison audience during a Johnny Cash performance and came away believing for the first time that a man with a record could still build a life in music. By 1969, he was one of the most respected voices in country, and none of his mainstream audience knew any of that yet.
In Muskogee.
Okie from Muskogee was written in about 15 minutes on a tour bus rolling through eastern Oklahoma. Haggard and bandmate Eddie Burris looked out the window at the Muskogee highway sign and started listing everything small-town America was not doing. Not smoking marijuana, not burning draft cards, not marching in protest. The sentiment landed in a nation desperately waiting for someone to say it out loud. The song hit number 1 on the country chart for 4 weeks and earned Haggard the CMA Award for Song of the Year.
San Francisco do.
What history tends to underplay is the man behind the anthem. The voice of small-town moral America had spent his teenage years as a fugitive and a convict. He had watched Cash perform from inside a prison cell. Okie from Muskogee was never a simple statement, and neither was Merle Haggard.
White lightning still the biggest.
Number 3, By the Time I Get to Phoenix, Glen Campbell, 1967.
By the time I get.
Glen Campbell was one of the most in-demand session guitarists in Hollywood before he was ever famous in his own right. He had played on Frank Sinatra recordings and filled in for Brian Wilson on the Beach Boys tour. He was invisible on 100 landmark records, the hand behind the sound, never the face above it. when By the Time I Get to Phoenix was released under his own name in 1967, the country audience that heard it had no idea who they were listening to.
I get to Phoenix, she'll be rising.
Jimmy Webb wrote the song after repeatedly driving the route from Phoenix to Oklahoma City during the slow collapse of a real love affair. A man leaving a woman, knowing she will find his note in Phoenix, call his name at lunchtime in Albuquerque, and finally understand by the time he reaches Oklahoma. Knowing all along she still will not believe he is really gone this time.
On her door.
The song reached number 2 on the country chart, won the Grammy for Best Country Song of 1967, and was later named by ASCAP the 3rd most performed song in the history of American music. Behind only Never My Love and Yesterday, Frank Sinatra called it one of the greatest torch songs ever written. A session player nobody had heard speak stepped to a microphone and broke the entire country open.
She'll be sleeping.
Number 2, Folsom Prison Blues, Johnny Cash, 1968.
I hear the train a-coming, it's rolling around the bend. And
Johnny Cash wrote Folsom Prison Blues while serving in the United States Air Force in West Germany in 1953. His unit had watched a documentary film called Inside the Walls of Folsom Prison, and something in that footage locked into him and would not let go. He tried to think of the worst possible reason a person could kill someone. The answer came faster than he expected. He later admitted, "It did come to mind quite easily, though."
when I hear that whistle blowing, I hang.
The original 1955 recording was a modest hit at number 4 on the country chart. Then on January 13, 1968, Cash walked through the actual gates of Folsom State Prison to perform 2 live shows for the inmates inside. The recording captured something no studio version could replicate. When Cash sang the Reno line in front of those convicted men, the room erupted. After Robert F. Kennedy's assassination, Columbia remixed the single with that line removed. Cash protested publicly. The audience wanted the original anyway, and it went to number 1 on the country chart.
Just a baby, my mama told me, son.
At Folsom Prison hit number 1 on the country albums chart, won Cash a Grammy for Best Country Vocal Performance, and revitalized a career in steep decline. It reframed Johnny Cash not just as a singer, but as a symbol. A man who walked into a prison not to lecture the men inside, but to stand in front of them and sing.
That's where I want to.
Number 1, Crazy, Patsy Cline, 1961. Willie Nelson arrived in Nashville in 1960 with nothing but a bag of songs nobody wanted. He was broke, couch surfing, and selling demos door to door. One of those songs was originally called Stupid. He renamed it Crazy. It still went nowhere until Charlie Dick heard it on a jukebox at 1 in the morning, drove Nelson straight to his house, and woke up his wife Patsy Cline to listen. Nelson waited in the car. He knew Cline's temper. She came outside and got him herself. When Cline first tried to record it, she couldn't. A car accident 2 months earlier had cracked her ribs and fractured her wrist. She also couldn't follow Nelson's unusual, behind-the-beat phrasing. She left the studio unfinished. 3 weeks later, she came back, stood at the microphone, and recorded the entire vocal in one single take.
Crazy for feeling so.
Crazy peaked at number 2 on the country chart and number 9 on the pop chart in 1961. Cline's biggest crossover hit and the song that would define her forever. Rolling Stone named it the greatest country song of all time. Willie Nelson said this recording was the moment that convinced him to keep writing. Patsy Cline died in a plane crash on March 3, 1963. She was 30 years old. The song has never stopped playing.
I'm crazy